Get 5 coffins ready.
Hey everyone, welcome to my guide for Ishtar. Ishtar is an extremely powerful hunter in SMITE, filled to the brim with stims and hard CC alike, with plenty of immunities to boot. Sounds OP, because she is. That comes later. For now, builds. Ishtar wants to go the best meta ADC build. She wants to go either a crit or an attack speed build, really just whatever everyone else is building. Relics wise, you want to go just beads and Aegis. Ishtar has plenty of fun ways to give herself immunities, but she's still going to want to have access to beads and Aegis just like every other hunter. Shard wise, you know the drill by now. Basic attack based gods always go wing shard. Always. Before we get to her abilities, let's get to today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Without a VPN, using the internet is like taking a private phone call while being in a room with a bunch of strangers. Connecting to a VPN essentially is like taking yourself and your online data into another room and shutting the door from those pesky strangers who are in your house for some reason. But seriously, big corporations and ne'er-do-wells alike are making a beeline for your data constantly as you traverse the web, so using a VPN gives you peace of mind while you do your daily internet surfing. And with ExpressVPN, don't think that those prying eyes can just crack the door open a little bit to see your data, because ExpressVPN provides class-leading encryption to ensure that nobody, no matter the resources or time, will be able to see your data. That's all great, but the cherry on top is ExpressVPN's ability to allow you to access region-locked content on your favorite streaming services like Netflix. My personal choice is going over to the BBC iPlayer to watch 3 middle-aged British men fall over and occasionally a car goes by. If you know, you know. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the video description to get signed up, and with my special link, you'll be getting your first 3 months free. Thanks again to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's video. Let's get to something that works well with that wing shard with her passive. When Ishtar drops below 75% HP, she will mark the god who most recently damaged her, this mark lasting for 10 seconds. Then, every time Ishtar basic attacks the enemy marked god, she will gain 5% attack speed, which can stack up to 4 times for a potential total of 20% attack speed. Then, if she gets a kill or assist on that marked enemy god, she will gain 20% movement speed. Let's just get that final tidbit out of the way. As you may have already guessed, you're not expected to kill whoever you marked every time you mark someone, but this part of the passive is always something to keep in mind after you get a kill. Use that move speed to get away from the enemy team, use it to chase down the enemy team, and so on. This level of move speed gives you a lot of flexibility to re-engage or retreat from further engagements with enemies. But back to the original mark. This is a great window of opportunity to start trading with enemy lane opponents, but like with Hachiman's dash last time, you really want to know your matchups before just going on to wail on the marked target in the hopes that you get an easy kill. As I mentioned already though, Ishtar is very strong right now, so it's pretty much always a safe bet to just stack up the mark for the bonus attack speed and meter out how you're trading with them before committing things like your dash to secure the kill. A fuller understanding of this passive will become more clear once you get more acquainted with the rest of her kit, so let's get to it, with yet another basic attack stim of hers. Upon activating her first ability, Ishtar might now press either ability 1, 2, or 3. Each ability button will result in a different version of her first ability. The first stim modifies her basic attacks to land in an AoE, so her basic attacks can hit multiple targets and cannot be body blocked, but as a result, her attack speed is slowed. Before we go further, a cool trick with this and the other modes of this ability, while basic attack is going out, you can cancel the ability to have 2 basic attacks come out simultaneously for some crazy damage. So when the duration of a particular mode is coming to an end, try to double basic attack an enemy god if it's safe to do so. As for other things that apply to every mode, each mode lasts for 5 seconds, and the enhanced basic attacks can hit objectives like Gold Fury and Fire Giant, but cannot hit structures like towers and phoenixes. Back to the first mode of the ability though. The ability gives Ishtar absurdly strong pressure in the early game, since it gives her one of the best clears in the current start where you pull all the camps together. Then, once you're actually in lane, the pressure continues because this is easily the best way to present in the game at the moment, and basically gives Ishtar a free pass to pressure out her opponents in the early levels, no matter who they are. And usage of this mode doesn't get much deeper than that. Given the very poor basic attack speed, it's not the one you want to use while fighting gods, but it's your go-to when you need to hit bunched up enemies like minion waves and jungle camps. Better for single targets is Ishtar's second mode of her first ability. Ishtar fires out 4 additional basic attacks in the cone AoE. Keep in mind that the original basic attack is still there in the middle. The 4 additional basic attacks of course deal heavily reduced damage, and require you to be very close up to hit the entirety of. Those small issues out of the way, given that every single basic attack in this cone is able to crit, it more than makes up for the poor range with raw damage. Ishtar is therefore able to completely demolish objectives like Gold Fury and Fire Giant with this mode, and it of course enhances her one-on-one potential too, and trust me, Ishtar is more than capable of getting in range to hit the full cone. First though, let's talk about the final mode of her first ability. Ishtar's basic attacks gain significant range, but are reduced in damage, and Ishtar gains attack speed for their duration. So if you hit enough basic attacks, you'll eventually deal more damage than you would have by simply basic attacking normally. But as you'd imagine, it still loses damage-wise when compared to the second mode of this ability. This mode is generally for when you're fighting, but you know it's unsafe to try and go for the second mode of this ability. It's not a terrible mode, but it's the one that sees the least use, essentially only using it in the mid to late game fights where Ishtar needs to keep her distance. So to wrap up, first mode for minions, second mode for objectives and fights where you can get in people's faces, and the third mode for when you're fighting but want to keep safe. Now let's hop to Ishtar's second ability. Ishtar fires damaging circle AoEs which overlap with one another, and she can dictate whether they begin from the end that comes towards her or starts where she's standing and shoot forward by either looking up or down. Let's get it out of the way now. You fire enemies far away with the version that goes towards you, and enemies near you should be eating the version that starts at Ishtar's location. It's not super important or complex. What is complex though is how the circles overlap and interact. Each circle deals individual damage, but if an enemy is hit by two circles where they overlap, they will take full damage from both circles and be mesmerized. It's a weird ability, but realistically you use it like any other big ability that you can't really miss. You use it to clear waves and throw it out mid-combo while fighting gods, and that's kinda that. Trying to snag someone with the mez is something you should try to do of course, but it's very inconsistent if you use the ability raw. One way to ensure you get the double circle hit is with Ishtar's third ability. Ishtar dashes forward, so when using it for escaping, just point and shoot. It goes relatively far and is very fast, but if you know you have to escape, use the ability as early as possible. Since if Ishtar collides with an enemy god while dashing, she will root them, dash backwards into the air, and fire a shot in the position the enemy was when she collided with them, this shot dealing damage to any enemies in the AoE. This is where the real sauce of Ishtar begins. Like Hachiman's dash last time, this dash requires very good matchup knowledge and general game sense from the Ishtar player. Against some gods there are certain abilities, such as very high CC or very high damaging ones, that you must avoid with Ishtar's dash in order for the fight to go in your favor. And against others who deal damage and CC over time with their combos, you want to dash onto them as soon as possible so you can have the dash up again earlier for chase down and or an escape if things don't go well. The timing is important too when trying to immune things. The dash is fast, but it's not like it's instant, so your reaction time needs to be either rock solid or you shouldn't try to dash in at all if the ability is too fast for your dash to immune it. Again, like Hachiman, this is something you'll learn over time as you play her, and the more knowledge you have about relevant gods in the ADC role prior to playing Ishtar, the easier this will get. So be sure to save this ability as an escape in your first few matches with Ishtar, but don't be afraid to get more aggressive with it once you get more comfortable. As for missing out on the amazing immunity on this ability when saving it as an escape, don't worry, Ishtar has another great immunity in the form of her ultimate. Ishtar becomes CC immune and fires out blades in a wide cone AoE. The blades deal damage as well as cripple any enemies hit as they fire outward, and the blades will stay in place for up to 3 seconds, but she can recall them sooner by reactivating the ability as soon as the blades have all reached their maximum range. When the blades are recalled, they will deal damage again, but if an enemy was hit by a blade in the initial usage and the return of the blades, they will be stunned. And even if Ishtar gets CC'd, she can still recall the blades and essentially waste whatever CC she was hit with the stun on this ability. Sounds broken, because it is. In terms of one-on-one and teamfight presence, as well as downright ease of use, I don't think there's any Hunter ultimate that comes even close to Ishtar's. While the immunity on this is insane, you don't necessarily need to use it for that purpose, although it is wonderful at answering back whatever CC or damage you're trying to immune. You thought you were going to lock Ishtar down? No, you sir are the one who's locked down. And dead. Because this ability does truly insane damage, and as we'll see in a moment, combos beautifully with Ishtar's other abilities. Let's get to using it in a one-on-one out of the way first, since it's very simple. In situations where you're significantly ahead, you typically want to start off with this ability to get a combo going, since as we know, after the stun, Ishtar is more than capable of chasing targets down. Then in more even matches, you want to wait for your opponent to use their best tool against you and try to immune it with the CC immunity and or shut it down with its ability stun. In teamfights, of course, if you need an immunity, use this instead of your third ability so that you can save your dash for, well, dashing out of bad situations. Generally though, you want to focus on using this ability as a sort of secondary engage with your team, as it's one of the longest range stuns in the game with a boatload of damage on top. Don't forget about it as a self-peel option too though. If you're against a team with a lot of dive potential, using this ability too early is basically like inviting the enemy team to murder you. So again, it's another one of those game sense situations where you want to leverage each fight as either one where you want to use the ultimate for follow-up with your team, or save it for its insane immunity and self-peel potential. Let's see how it's done with some combos with Ishtar. 2, basic, 3, chase with your 1. 3, 2, 1, basics, ult at the end if you think you can kill. Ult, 3, reactivate the ult, chase with a 2 and 1. For ability leveling, you want your 1 at level 1, your 3 at level 2, and your 2 at level 3. From there, it's a bit of a toss-up. Everyone has their preference with Ishtar. I'd say maxing the 2, then the 3, then the 1 is the safest way to go, but I've seen high level players max any one of her core abilities first, so it's really just personal preference. But you of course want to level the ultimate whenever you can. Ishtar is overpowered, no doubt about it. A lot of her fundamentals are quite simply just better than other hunters. Her wave clear, her immunities, her escape, the reach of her ultimate, and the list goes on. But she's not really a god you can just pick up and play. She has a lot of little mechanics that you really need to nail down in order to really perform on the character. Not to mention, of course, strengths like her immunities and ability to counter CC and combos with her ultimate require significant game knowledge from you as the Ishtar player to make the most out of and pull off. That said though, even on the ground floor of skill, she's still a very solid ADC, and one you do not want to let pass you by if you intend on going anywhere near the ADC role. That's all I have on Ishtar for now. Thanks again to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's video, and thank you for watching.